Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Ballroom D. My name is Mark Buffington. This session here is Software Update Road Trip. We've got some great friends from Jamf Product here that are going to be sharing a wonderful story about a favorite topic of all of us. This session runs from 11:15 a.m. to noon here in Austin and local time. Also, good morning, afternoon, and evening to any virtual attendees watching as well. Just a reminder, you've probably heard this in all other sessions, but we'll still remind you that all Q&A we're going to be handling through the JNUC app. So you can go to the Q&A section, find this session, submit questions. Since we do have a lot of people in the audience, we've got a voting system, so you can upvote things. And we'll go through some of those questions here at the end as time allows. And with that, it is my pleasure to welcome Matthew Mitchell and Ashley Beard, product owner and product managers respectively here at Jamf. And a warm welcome to you both. Thanks all.
Thank you. All right, welcome everybody to the Software Update Road Trip. I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off. My name is Ashley Beard, and over the past 4 years, I've worked at Jamf in the product space. Now, I primarily focus on Jamf Pro and our content management workflow. So if you think about apps and books, patch management, and software updates, that's what I do. This is my very first JNUC in person and my first time on the stage, so I'm really, really excited. Yeah, thank you. Nervous too, but excited. I work in product management, so a lot of my job is interacting with customers, taking on feedback. Where do we need to go? Are we doing the right things? So at JNUC, I'm just realizing there's a great opportunity to interact with more customers than what I would be able to do day to day. Now, I'm also a product manager. I keep saying that. I'm going to remind you. But I work with a team. They have to help me accomplish the things that we set out to do. Now, I work with some really talented engineers, designers, technical writers, and many more who love what they do, but they don't love the idea of getting on a stage in front of a massive audience like we have today. I took one for the team, but I also brought with me Matthew Mitchell, who's been on the software update journey with me.
Hello. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hello, I'm Matthew, and I'm a product owner here at Jamf. I've been at Jamf for almost 8 years now. I started in 2016 in support as a technical account manager. Remember when we had those? I moved my way through the ranks there and ended my support tenure as a strategic technical account manager on the premium support team until 2018 when I moved to the Jamf Services department, flying around the country teaching our 200, 300, and 400 classes to many of you. In addition to that, as a part of professional services, I did some onboarding engagements, Jamf Connect setup, and many, many, many API scripts. So like Ashley said, like I said, like Mark said, I'm a product owner now since 2021 for content manager workflows, so software updates, apps and books, patch management. And this is my 5th time at JNUC. Second time speaking, you might have caught my session in 2019, Roll Your Own Configuration Profiles. And I'm excited to be back here now talking about software updates. So let's get into it. Back to you, Ashley.
Yes, we are talking about software updates. It's a very hot topic based off of the number of people that registered for the session that are here today and that are watching us virtually. In our session today, we're going to talk about the problems that you've all been experiencing. I'm going to highlight some chatter and feedback that we've gotten from the admin community. And then from there, we'll dive into our plans, where we've been and where we are today. And then we're going to talk about our path forward and how you can continue to help us. So, as the industry, it's shifted, and as it has shifted towards MDM workflows, admins have several ways for deploying software updates to the various types of devices and end users in their organization. Now, all of these are made better or often rely on a third-party tool, and it's quite obvious, right? Now, whether you're sending a remote command, creating a policy, and enabling end-user flexibility via self-service with their own install, if you're scripting your update workflows, or you actually use a third party to perform the install, or maybe just use a third party to gently nudge your users to do a thing, it's quite clear there isn't a Jamf Pro native solution that provides admins with the flexibility that they need, and mostly the control that you guys all want. So there are lots of options on the market today, and admins, we get it. You want control, and you really want to know that your managed devices are up to date. End users, They want to be less annoyed by management tasks, but they also want to feel like they are in control of their own updates. And everyone wants a secured and compliant device with trusted access to their school content or their business content. But nothing seems to work for all devices. So let's talk about feedback that we've gotten. It's been quite clear that there's lots of feedback that you guys have all given us about software updates. But I'm going to say something very controversial here. As a product manager, I want you guys to know that we check your feature request. Yeah, we do check your feature request. Now, we may not have been as great at it in the past, but today we are checking your feature request. So not only me as a product manager, but there are a team of us that are looking at the feature request that you submit. So it's quite helpful to us, and we want you to continue to do it. Now, if you haven't looked at your feature request lately, there's been a lot of movement, lots of responses. Now, we have a tough job, and the responses that we provide and the movement that we do, you may not like it, and we've seen some of that in the comments, but I just want you to know we are checking your feature request. Now, over the years, there has been lots of feedback around software updates. And Jamf Pro Workflows for software updates, you guys have submitted over 100 feature requests with 3,476 votes and over 259 comments. Now, taking the time to create those feature requests or even read them and provide an upvote or even leave a comment. Some of the comments are constructive, lots of them are very productive with helping out your peers, and some can be quite petty, but it's also very clear that you want us to get our stuff together and get on top of the software update workflows. You laugh, but I see the pettiness out there in the comments. Now, generally speaking, when I look over all of the feature requests, specifically for software updates, there's a lot of stuff that you guys want, but I would pretty much say you are generally looking for scheduling, reporting, and better notifications. Now, one of the biggest requests is providing admins with the ability to schedule the OS updates. Whether it's scheduled enforcement or schedule when it goes down, you want that functionality today. And reporting, the general statements are you don't want to have to build a dashboard card to monitor a specific OS, you just want to see what's there. Just make it easy for you. And if we talk about notifications, you guys want better branded notification options and possibly reduce your reliance on third-party tools to perform updates that are needed. And that specific request extends a little bit outside of software updates, but I'm holding on to it because that's what you guys want. Now, if we dive specifically into computers, scheduling is obviously the most requested. If we look at deferrals and restrictions, you guys want better options for restricting the software update, and you want us to basically provide you with the same functionality for macOS that we have with iOS. So instead of the pick list that we have today, you want to be able to define a restriction for 11 days or 32 days. And we hear it, we know about it. And for automation and enforcement, you want to be able to automatically enforce an update the day that it comes out, regardless of a major version or minor version. You just want that control. You just want it to be done for you. Now, if we dive into the mobile device space, again, it's with scheduling. Here we go, gotta click. So scheduling is the most requested feature. It's the common trend across the board, and I get it. It's the product version of, are we there yet? You've been asking, we've been asking, and we know you want scheduling. Also within the iOS space, when you're sending a remote command, you don't want to see all of the available versions that come from the GDMF. You just want to see the options or the versions that are applicable to the device that you're deploying the remote command to. And again, you want better enforcement options. Now, generally speaking, there's lots of things that you want, but you really want better requirements around what's the highest supported version for your specific device. You want more granularity around scheduling based on that device eligibility. And you also want better restrictions. And more specifically, you want Jamf to reserve space on the device so that your updates don't fail when your end users get a little greedy with space. So these are some of the common things. And when I look at these, I'd say you guys want control, control, and more control. And I'd have to say, Janet Jackson said it best, you guys want
RESPECT.
That's not Janet.
Oh.
But yes, it's a lot. So we get it. You want more control. So with all of the feedback and the industry needs that we've looked into, we set out on a journey to simplify how software updates are deployed. We want to give you an easier way to plan and manage those updates so that end users can get on with their day, and so can you. And we plan to tackle our problems in quite a few ways. One of those ways is we're going to modernize the workflows that we're using and dive into what the new capabilities are from Apple. We're going to be a bit more transparent about what's happening or not happening with your updates. We also want to give you that control with scheduling, scheduled deployments and scheduled enforcements, and we want to make it easier and simple for you to perform those updates. And if you're doing updates between iOS and macOS, we want those to be uniform. So where do we start? Well, reliability is first. We want you to confidently be able to move between the different operating systems regardless of the update instruction, but we're going to focus on MDM. We also want to give you a bit more visibility into what's happening, and we want you to quickly understand what's installed on the devices without, again, having to build those dashboard cards. It'll give you a bird's eye view of what devices are on what version and if they are compliant or out of compliant. We also want to give you the ability to plan those updates. And yes, planning. This is schedulability. It's not a word, but it's my attempt at marketing. So for those that have seen this content prior to this session in different customer calls or even today, it just sounded good. May not look good today, but it works. But with schedulability, we want you guys to have the ability to schedule when the update goes down to the device. We also want to ensure we have uniformity between iOS and macOS. Now, not all of you are managing iOS and macOS, but if you plan to, or if you currently are, we want those workflows to be as consistent as possible. And lastly, with software updates being a very prominent responsibility for admins, we want our UI and API workflows to just be really, really simple. There's lots of complexity out there in Jamf Pro, and software updates doesn't have to be a part of it. So we're giving you a prominent place within the UI to manage your software updates. So we've got a long road ahead of us, and it's going to take us a while to get there. So before we dive into what these plans look like, I think it's great for us to take a look back at where we've been. And with that, I'll allow Matthew to take the wheel.
Thank you very much. All right, well, let's talk about software updates in the rearview mirror. Where have we been so far on this road trip? Well, first, we were a whole lot of nowhere. This was a do-it-yourself situation. Either end users did the updates for themselves, unlikely, or admins used the good old-fashioned sneakernet to perform updates for users. Now, updates were a lot less frequent then than they are now, but still, when they did happen, it was an enormous amount of work. Then we arrive at imaging. And for macOS, we had options such as Casper Imaging, being the friendly ghost, which was later renamed to Jamf Imaging. And we can also lump technologies like NetBoot in here as well. But of course, depending on your imaging workflow, it may have constituted a complete nuke and pave of the target drive, which at the very least is going to require some additional time and resources to back up and restore that user data. And at the very worst, if that doesn't go so hot, then an uncomfortable and unfortunate Friday afternoon. Now on iOS, we've never had something completely identical to macOS imaging, but honorable mention to Configurator, which allows you to connect multiple devices locally, physically with cables, to perform software updates locally in mass. Now, locally is the key phrase there, because that still doesn't leave us with a great remote option. But then we arrive at the third stop on our software update road trip, MDM commands and inventory records. And finally, this did allow us to send remote commands to devices to perform an OS update. This was a big step in the right direction, and it began to enable lots of new management capabilities. But there were problems. There were MDM vendor issues. There were MDM framework issues. There were OS support issues. When it worked, it was really cool. But for a process as critically necessary as software updates, it was just hard to rely on, and a lot of folks continued to use their imaging workflows. Apple platforms continued to evolve. The introduction of APFS, the removal of 32-bit apps, and the decline of imaging, and that brought about a new era of software update management when policies were king. Several phenomenal MacAdmin community members made some incredible tools that helped automate the download, packaging, and deployment of macOS installer.app files. And Jamf's own Joshua Roscos created a phenomenal macOS upgrade.sh script that could then use those deployed .app files to do the update for users with minimal user interaction. And all these things tended to be controlled and deployed through policies. Policies also had the additional flexibility of being able to control when things happened on target devices, as well as offered enhanced notification possibilities via scripted workflows. Things were pretty good. And then things got complicated. T2 chips and Bootstrap tokens became a thing. Apple Silicon entered the market. Apple platforms themselves became more hardened, and end users were being prompted for their consent to management activities more and more. Again, though, several phenomenal tools emerged to help admins keep their updates applied during this time, such as Nudge and Super, and these are phenomenally helpful and extremely beneficial because imaging has been buried long ago. macOS itself no longer supports many of the popular workflows done through policies, and the MDM command side of things still, frankly, needed some love. But that then brings us to where we are now, the 6th stop on the software update road trip. We've arrived at managed software updates. It is abundantly clear that the future of software update deployment for Apple IT professionals is through mobile device management and declarative device management. But improvements do need to be made. And what is Jamf going to do about it?
Well, Matthew, what are we going to do about it?
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do about it, but first I'm going to start by beating this road trip metaphor into the ground just a little bit more, and let's talk about this by way of the road ahead. Where are we at currently, and what's just imminently around the next corner? In 1048, we shipped the beta for the new Managed Software Update feature, and in that release, we targeted 3 of the 5 capabilities Ashley walked us through a few moments ago: uniformity, simplicity, and reliability. And we knew in order to make our software update experience more reliable, we needed a new back-end architecture. Now, Jamf's old back-end architecture for MDM software updates was very straight and rigid. Step A happened, then B, then C, in that order every time with no variation. That is just not how software updates work in reality. Network disruptions happen, end-user actions and behaviors get in the way, one of the involved platforms has a bad hair day, stuff happens. In order for a software update experience to be reliable, it has to be able to adapt. And our new back-end architecture allows us to do just that. Additionally, instead of waiting for a monitor to run, like we do when we'd sync with Volume Purchase Program, our new back-end architecture allows us to process new information about updates on demand. It also offers enhanced reporting capabilities, which is a win in and of itself, but better reporting for y'all also implies better reliability across the board, because the system is now more easily able to reference what has already been completed, what responses we've received back, and what steps still need to happen in order for that software update to be complete. With that new back-end architecture in place, we turned our attention towards replacing the existing functionality of software updates in Jamf Pro. And this is really what we delivered in 1048, the replacement and consolidation of mass action commands for software updates. In that release, we brought about a new area in the sidebar for both computers and devices, a single unified one-stop shop to manage your software updates for all of your managed platforms. We also developed this replacement in a truly API-first mindset. Without exception, literally every single action that you can take in the user interface of this new feature, you can do through the new Jamf Pro API endpoints. And right here in this room yesterday, Kevin White announced that his popular tool Super has been updated to take advantage of these new endpoints. As we continue to develop this feature, we will maintain that same commitment to API first. So, after we replaced the existing functionality, it was time to move on towards looking to lay the foundations for the future of the feature. Replacing mass action commands is all well and good. They're working well. We're hearing lots of positive feedback related to the new architecture and the new feature. But still, mass actions are ephemeral. You configure them, you fire them off, and then poof, they're gone. The next time you want to do this same thing in a week or two, you've got to start all over. So in a future release of Jamf Pro, we will introduce the saved object concept to software updates. What's a saved object? A saved object in Jamf Pro is an object that you can save, such as you create and name a policy and save it, saved policy object. Same kind of deal for configuration profiles, app records, patch policies, even something like a building or a category. You create and name a thing, configure some options, scope the thing, boom, saved object. So that's what we're going to introduce to software updates. You'll be able to create and save a software update plan, and the next time that you need to rerun those updates, you can just rerun that plan. Or since it's saved, you can edit it and make some tweaks to it if you'd like. The saved object will be the foundation for everything that we build upon in the future as we continue to add more features and capabilities. And we're targeting a healthy balance of new features, bug fixes, and a general commitment to quality for the feature. We'll be able to respond to your feedback faster than we have before, and our API-first approach allows us to deliver and iterate on that feedback faster than we ever have. Now, peering into the crystal ball of what are these new features and capabilities, of course, a huge one was discussed yesterday in the keynote, being able to schedule an enforcement date for your software updates through declarative device management. Another one is the saved object concept I just talked about, and we also know that you and your end users need more visibility, reporting notifications into the overall progress of your software updates, and that is high on our to-do list. So, with all of that said, let's take a look at how software updates look right now in Jamf Pro 11. So here we are on the dashboard, and like I said, in 1048, we added a new sidebar item for computers and devices. So let's take a look at that. If we go to the Computers tab, there we are, software updates, and the same for devices. Whichever one we click on, we are taken to the exact same place, unification. Additionally, since we still have the old legacy software update workflows in the product, we've added some in-product messaging to those workflows to let folks know that a new thing is available. We can see this whether we do a mass action or an individual command from an inventory record. Let's take a look at both real quick. If we take a look at searching our inventory, and we'll do a mass action on my one iPad, we'll send remote commands, and then update the OS version. There's that message, letting us know the new thing is available and we can try it if we'd like. If we wouldn't like, we can just go ahead and keep using this old workflow by clicking the next button down here. Here's our update options. We can fire it off and away we go. Let's also take a look at this for computers. So let's just select this one MacBook Air, and then we'll go to its management tab, and then here are all those commands that we could fire off. We'll do download and install updates. Once again, prompted there's a new thing available. This time, though, let's go ahead and take a look at it. We'll click on Go to Software Updates, and here we've arrived at the new software update feature available in the sidebar. When we arrive at the splash screen for the software update feature, we get a list of all of the capabilities and functionality, as well as seeing this beta label up top here. We'll come back to that after the demo. By default, the software update feature is off, but we can turn it on by clicking that blue button at the bottom, at which point we get this message of, if you turn the new thing on, it will cancel, in my case, all 0 of my in-flight updates. Why, and what does that mean? The old and new workflows are not translatable between each other. Only one of them can be active at once. So if we turn on the new workflow, the old workflow is disabled. And vice versa. We can turn the new workflow back off again, and then we'll be able to use the old workflow again. But any time we toggle between the two, we'll cancel all of the in-flight commands, meaning they're update commands that exist somewhere in Jamf Pro, and we'll clear those out. Let's go ahead and turn this on, and then we'll be dropped at the software update landing page, where we can see all of our computer groups listed out, both smart and static, and the same for mobile devices. To begin updating my fleet, I just check a couple boxes for the groups that I want to update, and then I click the update button in the upper right. Or if I want to do multiple platforms at once, I go to my computers tab, check those 2 boxes, and notice as I'm clicking these boxes in the upper right, we get a running commentary of how many of what kind of group we've got selected. When I'm happy with my selections, then I can just go ahead and click that update button, and we're brought to the Update Devices screen. From here, we can see a list of all of our available install actions as well as target versions. Let's go through them all. Download only does what you might think. It downloads the update, and it makes it available for users to install without requiring anything. And the advantage of this is being able to stage the installer so that when the user chooses to update later on, they're just waiting for the installation. They're not also waiting for the download. This is available for all platforms: macOS, iOS, iPadOS, and tvOS. Download and install also does what you might think. It downloads the update and prompts the user to install it. If you are going to be using MDM commands to upgrade from an earlier version of macOS to macOS Sonoma when it ships soon, this is the option you should use. This next option, download and schedule to install, that's the new declarative device management option, and I've got a lot to say about that, so we're going to come back to this in a moment. But these next two options, these are only available for macOS. Download, install, and allow deferral is the same download and install workflow, but instead of expecting an immediate result, responsibility to perform the update is handed to the device to either prompt the user or schedule an overnight installation later. For those of you familiar with the MDM spec, this is using the install later key. Download, install, and restart is using the install force restart key from the MDM spec. And this also does the download and install workflow, but instead of offering any deferral options whatsoever, when it's time to update, the restart is forced immediately with no options for the user to defer. This is really handy if you've got a critical update that needs to go out immediately, but it does come with the caveat of potential data loss for the end user. If they've got something unsaved open, again, that restart is just forced and it happens with no prompts. So if you've got that unsaved work, well, poof, gone. Again, these last two options are macOS only. Once I'm happy with my selection here, then I need to figure out what target version am I going to. If I choose the latest based on device eligibility, we do lookups against Apple's GDMF to figure out what is the latest available release for each of the devices targeted by this workflow. If we do latest major version, let's use iOS as an example. The latest major version of iOS is 17. So if I'm on some version of 16, for example, let's say I'm on 16.2, and I choose this option, I'll go directly to 17. On the flip side, with latest minor version, again, if I'm on iOS 16.2, the latest iOS version right now is 16.6.1 on that 16 release. And so if I choose minor version, instead of going all the way to 17, I'll go to the latest minor release on my current major release. And then finally, specific version will list out every single available OS version for all of my scoped or targeted devices. And once again, we are looking up this information in GDMF. And I've said GDMF 3 times now. I think Ashley said it once. And in case that's a new term for anybody, GDMF is a feed that Apple hosts that lists all of their currently available supported hardware models, as well as all of the available OS updates available for those models. We pull our data from that. Once I'm happy with this, we'll go ahead and click on Apply in the lower right, and then Jamf Pro will begin creating and firing off plans to each individual device. And information related to the progress of those plans is currently available in the Jamf Pro API endpoints, and we'll be adding visibility into that information into the user interface soon. So that's a look at software updates as they existed in 1048 with that replacement and consolidation workflow, and all of those options that I just detailed work through mobile device management. Let's rewind a little bit, and let's go back to that middle option I skipped over. Let's talk about download and schedule to install. And this is using declarative device management. And if you missed Katie English's session yesterday right here in this room about what's next for MDM, I highly recommend watching the replay of that when it's available. So if I choose this option, I then get a calendar picker that allows me to choose a date and time to require the enforcement of this software update on each individual device relative to each device's individual time zone. What that means is if I set this for tomorrow at 1 o'clock, every device that I have in scope here, no matter where it is in the world, no matter what time zone it's in, when the device thinks it's tomorrow at 1 o'clock, that's when this update will be enforced. This makes it really easy to schedule software updates for your entire fleet across multiple time zones and have that schedule be contextually relevant for each of your users. Once again, when I'm happy with these options, let's just go ahead and choose a target version of go to the latest and greatest. Then we'll go ahead and fire this off. And once again, we're creating software update plans to send to each device, but this time they're being converted into declarations that are then issued to each device, telling the device, here's what you need to do by what date and time. And the incredible thing is once that declaration is successfully received by each device, you're good. You can walk away and wash your hands of this. The responsibility has been handed to the device, and it will take care of it. When it has progress to report, it'll let Jamf know, and again, visibility into that information is coming soon. And if something were to fail as a part of that update process, the device will keep retrying it until it's successful because, to paraphrase Michael Scott, we didn't just say to do the update, we declared it. So that's software updates in Jamf Pro 11. Again, lots of exciting things to look forward to in the near future, that saved object concept, as well as enhanced visibility for notifications and reporting. And we'll continue to iterate on this feature as we move through the beta phase. And speaking of that, why is this a beta? Well, it's marked as a beta because, frankly, we know that this is an extremely important workflow in each and every one of your environments. We know that you have compliance targets to hit. We know that you have devices that need to be updated to hit those compliance targets. And we've heard you when you've said that you've got requirements ranging from flexibility to enforcement for various situations. We want to deliver an absolutely incredible software update experience for you and for your end users. And so this is marked as a beta so that we could deliver it quickly and gather your feedback to iterate on it. We've accounted for happy path workflows in our internal testing, and we're now identifying edge cases and filling in gaps wherever they pop up. What does this look like, though, for us to leave beta? How do we get out of this, and when is it going to be GA? Well, we have a few steps to that. Step 1 was to ship the feature, so check, good. Step 2 is to add scheduling, check, also good. And the next step is to finish up that polishing. Once we've got things polished, we'll go ahead and remove that beta labeling, and at that point, we will communicate a timeline with plenty of notification, plenty of notice, plenty of time for you to migrate your existing workflows off of the old software update experience in Jamf Pro and onto the new experience. After that timeline has lapsed, we'll remove the old experience from the product, but before we do so, we want to make sure that this feature is rock solid and good to go. And for information on how you can help us get there, let me pass things back to Ashley to talk about feedback.
All right, I talked a lot about feedback, and I will continue to talk about feedback because our admins are really great at providing us with the information that we need to help us kind of build out our roadmap. Now, you are truly like voices in the back of my head when I get all of the feedback, when I'm checking Jamf Nation and things of that nature. But we continue to need your feedback. So this is a new experience. As you try it out, as you explore, as you discover edge cases for your environment, you gotta let us know. So a couple of options for doing that. You can go onto Jamf Nation and submit a feature request. With my controversial statement earlier, we actually check feature requests. I am out there, I am looking, I am tagging, categorizing, and telling leaders like we have to get on top of software updates. So you help me help you. Another way that you can also submit feedback is participate in the beta program. If you are participating there, we are pretty active. And this is where you can find Matthew the most, trolling for feedback after he's posted at least 8 paragraphs about every little new feature. But we're that excited about what we're doing, and we want you to be excited as well. And if those 2 options don't work, if Matthew is not great and I'm not great, you can always reach out to your friends in customer success because we partner with them regularly. They send us your feedback, we file it with all of the other feedback, and we figure out how that fits into our roadmap. And lastly, you can do it the traditional way. And if none of these work, you can always email the CEO, right? You guys are really great at emailing Dean.
Oh, it's John now.
But yeah, well, you just email John. You probably can CC Dean because I'm pretty sure he misses us.
Always CC Dean.
Yeah. So with that, I thank you. I hope you enjoyed what we've presented. We showed you our plans. We showed you what we're working on, what it looks like today, and there's a lot more ahead for us. So thank you. And with that, I'll bring the Buffington back on stage to get some questions.
Thanks. Round of applause. Well done to both of you. I know you had a little apprehension starting out. There was a lot of kudos in the chat thing. You did a great job, which started right away. So awesome vibes in the room here to start out. A lot of questions submitted. A lot of things were answered in there, so I'm going to do my best to kind of filter through some of the ones with votes here as well. Firstly, this one might be towards what you were talking about, like reliability as part of the plan's functionality and things, but will the new managed software updates help solve issues of, say, an OS update just not taking? So biggest issue, sometimes people see an update command is accepted, it doesn't happen, but what next? Are there going to be like reissuing or recurring command logic being added in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for the declarative side of things, that's largely taken care of for us, which is phenomenal. On the mobile device command side of things, yeah, there's absolutely some additional work that we can do to respond to, okay, we see that failed. Why did it fail? Is there something that we can fix, or do we just need to notify you of something's wrong on this device, go do it? Or if we can fix it, let's do it, retry it, and keep going for that success. Totally.
Awesome. Question about rapid security response updates, a topic also fond for me as well, but I know the question was asked before it was shown on the screen. You did the demo that had, you choose a specific version, latest version. How would someone go about updating to an RSR update if that's their target version they want?
Yeah, do you want to answer that? You want me to go for it?
Go for it.
If you send that latest version, if there is a RSR available for that device, meaning you already got to be on an applicable version. If it's, I don't know, 14.1a, you got to be on 14.1 already. But if you do then a latest version update, it should find that and apply it.
Awesome. And as a fellow software update nerd, when you do that latest update, it does that round trip where it asks the device, like, hey, what do you have available? And then we say, if you got something, go do it.
Yeah. I will add one more thing onto that. We do have some planned work for additional functionality for RSRs, so we know there's more to add there. But yeah.
Awesome. And while I'm pretty sure it's already covered, the new everyone wants to do declarative device management scheduling, that's only part of Jamf Pro 11, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Lots of questions. Some of the other ones. Here's an interesting one, and I really wanted to bring this one up as well. For iOS updates, can we force the update to run on devices that use a passcode? And I'll add a little commentary here. Many of you may be Mac admins, maybe don't do iOS much, but historically, MDM sends a command to a device to update, and if it has that passcode, that device, that user needs to enter that passcode, makes an authorization token. We may see it when our phones asked us to schedule overnight, etc. But from an MDM and security standpoint, it's not really a great idea to clear a passcode before a command. So any updates on iOS devices with passcodes and approaches?
Yes. With declarative device management, this becomes so much better. Rather than having to wait on the user just putting in that code when they'd be prompted for it on the device specifically for that update, once that declaration has been issued to the device, the next time they would just put in their passcode for whatever, just to unlock the device, it's captured and used to authenticate that install. So declarative has made that much, much better.
And I was setting them up for that. Like, it's super, super exciting, this new thing. We're right in between Apple releases here. iOS released, Sonoma coming next week. So we may see some updated platform deployment docs from Apple explaining some of that. But if a user's put in their passcode, from everything we've seen with the betas, it just silently does the thing. a user could be notified, they set it down, they pick it up, and it's been updated. It's pretty cool.
It's great.
A lot of questions.
There's a bunch I'm filtering through. Some are for other Jamf products and stuff, like Jamf School. I can't speak to right now, but there's broader DDM projects within Jamf that we want to build once, adapt to others, so expect future things, but can't say for sure. Will we be able to see software update status via the API without parsing through every command in management history?
Yes.
Simplified it.
Yes. There's a bunch of different Git endpoints for managed software updates. You can just do a Git, and then you can see literally every device you've got and its status. But you can also pull out a plan ID from each of those, which is like a UUID, and you can then search based on just that and get information for one device. And also in that response, you get that status information of where it's at, but if it's failed, we have some better indications of here's why it failed. The device is out of space, low battery, et cetera, rather than just, it failed, who knows why.
Quick one here. Is it possible to cancel a DDM declaration on a device?
Kind of. If you toggle the feature off, that cancels the in-flight updates. But I believe currently right now, once you've issued that declaration, again, Michael Scott, you've declared it and it's going to happen. There might actually be a technical possibility to pull that declaration back, but I don't think that is currently implemented. So if you fire that off, it's going to happen.
Still, so many questions. It's hard to keep up with them when they bounce around here. Some questions about scheduling, if it's powered off and things go into the next day. Can you restrict update times to launch on non-business hours? While I may know an answer to that, I think if you're using declarative management, Apple stated some of the behaviors as far as notifications, the frequency, the more urgency when a deadline is reached. Again, I would guess that they would be sending more things there because that's going to be a device behavior when you're using DDM.
Yep.
And those declarations are quite powerful versus a individual MDM command where the device is going to remember, I still have this thing to do. You may restart it, something may happen, and then it picks up and starts again. Well, there's two questions that are similar. I'm going to lump them together. Do Macs need to be supervised in order to use software update feature in 1048 or newer? A similar question, can BYOD devices be updated using managed software updates?
If they are supervised, which I don't think BYO would then qualify for that.
Correct.
Yes.
But BYOD, that's assuming if it's user enrollment. So if it's a user enrollment MDM, then it is never supervised. But if a device is supervised, that's the price of entry for all MDM updates.
Yep.
So many questions, yeah.
Well, and I've already gone through a bunch of them.
And we can take more questions afterwards. I know the session is likely wrapping up. You can find both Matthew Mitchell and I online. I'm active on Jamf Nation. He is very active in the beta forums. If you're here in person, you can find us. I think I'm pretty easy to identify. Just look for the hair, maybe bright colored lipstick. Matthew's right outside too.
Yeah, and hit me up on Mac Admin Slack. Yeah. I'm at iMatthewCM. Happy to chat anytime.
Awesome. And with that, one more round of applause from Matthew and Ashley. Thank you all.
Oh, can we see some of the...
Miss my gentle touch, did I hurt you very much? That's the